Hi, my name's Sean Bouquet. I play violin in the Detroit area and I use wireless gear a lot to connect. I used to not because I was always afraid of wireless cutting out or, it can't be as good as just being plugged in. However, I found wireless can eliminate almost entirely the hum you might get from bad grounding or just other connection issues. So I pretty much always play with wireless even if I don't need to. I'll try to keep the talking to a minimum, but I'll have a timestamp where you can jump to just listen. But I'm going to talk about where I have what I have today. I'm going to let you listen to it, and then I'm going to do some conclusion. And when I started using a wireless, I used the Line 6 G50, and that I used for close to a decade. It's fantastic. It worked really well. The only reason I decided to get something else was after about a decade, I was finding more often there was a lot of other things going on the channel. So it was 2.4 gigahertz, and Shure came out with a new one that was 5.8 and 2.4, and it jumps between it. And that's my main one I use now. It's like the GL-XD16 Plus, something like that. And I found I can go like 150 feet on a clear straight line with this. Sometimes not as far depending on the room. I wanted a backup, so I got the Xvive U2. This is probably the most popular miniature. I think they call them beetles or cherub. I'm going to look it up right now so I say the correct thing. Cherub. So these have got to be the most popular. They're 2.4 gigahertz, which that's the frequency they use. 2.4 gigahertz is great for good sound quality. The problem is it's pretty crowded on that frequency. A lot of cell phones use that, Bluetooth. So depending on how many people are around, it can be a bit much. They worked fine. I thought I lost them. Turns out they were just in my winter coat, and I found it literally last week. In that time, I bought two other ones. The Lekato, and this uses 5.8 gigahertz, and it's called the WS-50. And the Swiff audio, also called the WS-50, so that's a bit confusing. And this uses UHF frequency, which is between like 500 and 900 kilohertz. So having all three ranges, great. I wanted to find out which one sounded the best and which I could travel the longest distance. I would often just try these before a gig starts, and it's nice having different frequencies. There's a video I saw where a guy said just, spend $150 and buy two different frequencies or one of the Xvives because the price of them is quite different. So today I tried it out. So let's go to that. Now you're going to hear me play Canon ND a few times, and so you can hear the audio of it. What I did was I just plugged it in and I had my looper going. And then I plugged the wireless from my looper to my Zoom H4n. And instead of normally I would plug it into my instrument, but this way I could walk away from where my looper is and it would be the same sound. You're not hearing me make any weird changes in the sound each time. Tone goes, I feel like I could not hear a specific difference in that. I really go for higher fidelity because I'm playing what's supposed to sound like a violin, and I want to make sure it sounds like a violin and doesn't sound like it's compressed. With that said, you might have heard some clipping or adjustment of tone, and the Xvive as well as the Lekato both had clipping where the tone just cut out. There was some interference or something happened. The Swift audio didn't have that clipping, but there were drops in the fidelity. There were drops in how good the sound was. And that's common from what I've read with UHF frequencies, that you'll still get the sound, but it might just not be the quality that you're looking for. The distances I could go were quite different between the 5.8 gigahertz one and the other two. I feel like I could go about 60 feet with a 5.8 and about 100 feet with the other two. Now this is a clear day, I'm just walking in a straight line, and also there's not much around. There's wireless routers around, I'm right near a school with a football field, so there's probably some other things, some interference, but it's not a lot compared to if you were in a crowded room. When the Xvive and the Lekato started cutting out, there was just obvious clipping, it just cut out. The Swiff audio started to just dip in tone, and I heard that dip in tone really early. Now I do want to talk about the connection factor of it. If I can, I'm going to use my Shure because they can switch between channels really easily. The Xvive has 4 channels you can choose between, and while these other ones do not have channels you can choose between, there are other ones around that will do 5.8, like Xvive has a new one that has 8 different channels. So if one isn't working, you can try the other ones, or you could have, let's say, 4 guitars, each plugged into their own channel, as long as they're not being interfered with. I use these other ones as backup, but also for, let's say, a secondary rig and at home. My office is right above where my router is, which is in my basement. Not the best place for it, I know, but that's what it is. And when I use the 5.8, my internet is just rough. My sound's okay, but if I try, let's say, doing a Zoom video, that cuts out a lot. If I do the 2.4, it's usually pretty good. However, I have had some clipping and blinking of the sound depending on what else is going on. I have really no issue with the Swift audio. For me, if I'm staying put in one spot, I'm going to use the Swift audio, and I'll probably use that for most things. I feel most safe with the sound being continuous. I like the notes that I heard from one person where instead of paying about $150 for one of these, you buy one of each, and then you have 2 different ranges, 5.8, which will be a really high fidelity, but you can't travel as far, or the UHF, which is a slightly lower fidelity, could drop in tone a little bit, but a much stronger connection, and you can just have both for a similar price. That's my recommendation. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and let me know if you could hear any difference between the sounds.